The attorney's hands trembled as he set down the document. He removed his glasses, wiped them slowly, and put them back on as if hoping the numbers might change. They didn't. "Miss Reyes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "are you absolutely certain you've never accessed this account?" I stared at him, confused. "I told you, I'm here to close it. It's just a gift card balance. Maybe $200. He let out a long breath and leaned back in his chair. "No," he said quietly. "It's not." And in that moment, sitting in a small law office in downtown Portland with rain streaking the windows, I realized my stepmother had lied to me about everything. My name is Mia Reyes. I'm 29 years old, and I work as a registered nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. That morning, the October rain had turned the city gray and heavy. I'd come straight from a 12-hour night shift, still wearing scrubs under my raincoat, my hair pulled back in a messy bun that had given up hours ago. The law office was warm, almost stuffy, and smelled like old paper and coffee that had been sitting too long. I hadn't planned to be here. I'd spent 7 years trying to forget this part of my life even existed. But last week, while cleaning out a box I'd shoved into the back of my closet during my last move, I found it. A plastic card, faded and bent, tucked inside an envelope with my grandmother's handwriting on the front. Just my name, Mia. The memories it stirred were enough to make my chest tight. I decided then that I needed to end it properly. Close the account, cancel the card, let go. I called the number on the back, expecting a simple automated process. Instead, I was transferred 3 times before someone told me I needed to visit a specific law firm in person. Something about the account requiring identity verification. I should have known then that something was wrong. 7 years ago, I stood in the living room of my grandmother's house in Lake Oswego, holding that same card in my shaking hand. The room still smelled like her lavender perfume mixed with the waxy sweetness of funeral flowers, white lilies everywhere, drowning the space in their heavy scent. My grandmother was gone. Nana, who had raised me more than anyone else, who taught me how to make her famous arroz caldo when I was sick, how to budget my allowance, how to stand up for myself even when my voice shook. She used to say, "Anak, strength isn't about not falling, it's about how you get back up." After the service, after the last mourner left and the catering trays were cleared, my stepmother closed the front door and locked it. I remember the click of the deadbolt, sharp and final. She turned around, and her face was different. The practiced grief she'd worn all day was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "We need to talk about the house," she said. I nodded, still numb from the weight of the day. "Okay." My father stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, looking at his shoes. He'd barely spoken to me all day. My stepmother continued, her voice brisk like she was running a business meeting. "Your grandmother's estate has been settled. The house goes to your father, as her only surviving child. The furniture, the jewelry, the investments, all of it handled." She paused, then reached into her designer purse and pulled out a small envelope. "She left this for you. She didn't hand it to me. She tossed it onto the coffee table like junk mail." I picked it up and opened it. Inside was a generic gift card, the kind you buy at a drugstore checkout, and a note in my stepmother's handwriting, not my grandmother's. $200. For your future." I looked up, confused. "This is it?" My stepmother's smile was thin. "What were you expecting? An inheritance? You're not blood, Mia. You're not even legally part of this family anymore. Your father adopted you as a favor to your mother, God rest her soul. But that was charity, not obligation." The words hit me like ice water. I looked at my father, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to correct her. He didn't look up. "Dad?" I whispered. He shifted his weight. "She's right, Mia. Legally, you have no claim. Your grandmother was kind to you, but that doesn't mean she owed you anything." I felt my throat close. "She told me I was her granddaughter. She called me her Anak," she said. "She said a lot of things," my stepmother cut in. "But paperwork doesn't lie. And the paperwork says you're not entitled to anything more than what's on that card." I stared at the gift card in my hand. $200. That was what my grandmother's love had been reduced to. Not even a real account. Not even her handwriting on the note. A drugstore gift card and a dismissal. "I'd like to stay tonight," I said quietly. "I can sleep in my old room and leave in the morning." My stepmother shook her head. "That's not possible. We're having contractors come early tomorrow to assess the renovations. You'll need to find somewhere else." "Tonight?" My voice cracked. "You're asking me to leave tonight?" She didn't blink. "I'm not asking." I looked at my father one more time. He finally met my eyes, and for a moment, I thought I saw something flicker there. Guilt, maybe, or regret. Then he looked away. "You should go, Mia," he said. "It's better this way." I walked out of that house with nothing but my purse, my phone, and that gift card burning in my pocket. The door closed behind me, and I heard the lock turn. I stood on the porch for a long moment, staring at the welcome mat my grandmother had picked out, the one with cheerful sunflowers that said, "Come in, we're family." The rain started then, soft at first, then heavier. I walked down the driveway and didn't look back. I didn't cry. Not at first. I walked until I reached the bus stop at the end of the street, the same bus stop where my grandmother used to wait for me after school when I was little. She'd always have a snack in her purse, rice crackers or mango candies, something to tide me over until dinner. I sat on the wet bench and let the rain soak through my thin cardigan. My phone buzzed. It was my friend Destiny. "Where are you?" "I thought you were staying at the house tonight." "Change of plans," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can I crash at your place?" "Of course. I'll pick you up. Where are you?" I told her. 20 minutes later, her headlights cut through the rain, and I climbed into her car, dripping and shivering. "Jesus, Mia, you're soaked!" She cranked up the heat. "What happened?" "They kicked me out." She stared at me. "What?" "My stepmother. She said I'm not family. Gave me $200 and told me to leave. Tonight? After the funeral?" I nodded, not trusting my voice anymore. Destiny didn't say anything else. She just drove, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, her jaw tight with anger on my behalf. That night, I sat on her couch wrapped in a borrowed blanket, turning the gift card over and over in my hands. $200. I thought about using it, about proving them wrong by surviving on their charity. Then I thought about my grandmother's voice, about dignity, about standing on my own. I shoved the card into the bottom of my bag and zipped it shut. "I'll never use this," I said out loud. The next morning, I enrolled in an accelerated nursing program. If I was going to be on my own, I would do it right. I would build a life they couldn't touch, couldn't take, couldn't dismiss. For 7 years, I kept that promise. Nursing school was brutal. I worked part-time at a diner to cover rent while juggling clinicals and exams. There were nights I came back to my tiny studio apartment, so exhausted I fell asleep with my textbooks still open, highlighter still in hand. There were weeks when I had to choose between buying groceries and buying the next required textbook. I never touched the gift card. Not when my car broke down and I had to take 3 buses to get to clinical rotations. Not when I got the flu and couldn't afford the copay to see a doctor. Not when my student loans felt like a weight I'd never escape. The card stayed at the bottom of my bag, then in a box when I moved, then in a closet when I moved again. A reminder of the night I'd been erased. After graduation, I got a job at Providence, Portland. The pay was decent, the hours were brutal, but I was good at it. I found purpose in the work, in the small moments that made the chaos worth it. Holding a patient's hand during their last hours, watching someone walk out of the ICU who shouldn't have survived, being the calm voice in a family's worst moment. I built my life one shift at a time. I made friends. I adopted a cat. I rented a small apartment with a view of the river if you leaned out the window just right. I learned to be okay. My father called once, about 3 years in. I almost didn't answer. "Mia," he said, like we'd spoken yesterday. "What do you want?" "I need you to sign some paperwork. Your grandmother's estate had some loose ends." My jaw tightened. "I don't want anything to do with it. It's just a formality. Something about an old account she had in your name." I felt a chill run through me. "What account?" He hesitated. "I don't know the details. Patricia handles all that. Just sign what she sends you." Patricia, my stepmother. The woman who had reduced my grandmother's memory to a $200 gift card. "I'm not signing anything," I said. Don't call me again." I hung up before he could respond, but his words stayed with me. An old account. In my name. I thought about it for weeks, turning it over in my mind like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. My grandmother had always been careful with money, methodical. She wouldn't have opened an account without a reason. Still, I convinced myself it was nothing. Probably an old savings account with a few $100s, something my stepmother wanted to close for record-keeping. I refused to give them the satisfaction of thinking I cared. The years passed. I got promoted to charge nurse. I paid off my car. I started a savings account, small but growing. I built something that was entirely mine, and then I found that card again. I was packing up my apartment for another move, this time to a better place with actual laundry in the building. The box was labeled Nana's stuff in my own handwriting, things I'd taken from her house during happier visits, a few photos, her old rosary, a recipe card for her arroz caldo, the envelope with the gift card. I held the envelope in my hands, and something felt different, heavier. I opened it and found not just the gift card but another piece of paper I'd never noticed before, stuck to the inside of the envelope. A business card for a law firm, Whitmore and Associates, with a Portland address and a handwritten note on the back. "When you're ready?" "Nana?" My grandmother's handwriting, not my stepmother's. My hands shook as I stared at those words. She'd hidden this. She'd known. 3 days later, I called the number. The receptionist asked for my name and date of birth, then went silent for a long moment. "Miss Reyes," she said carefully, "Mr. Whitmore will want to see you personally. Can you come to the office?" Now I sat across from Edward Whitmore, a silver-haired man in his 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses as he spread documents across his desk. "Your grandmother established this trust in 2015, he said, "shortly after your mother passed away." I remembered that year. I was 17. My mother had died from ovarian cancer, and my grandmother had held me while I sobbed, promising me I would never be alone. She was very specific about the conditions, Mr. Whitmore continued. The trust would remain dormant, earning interest, until you voluntarily sought it out, not contacted, not informed through family. You had to find it yourself. "Why?" My voice came out rough. He smiled gently. "She told me once, if Mia ever truly needs this, she'll look for it. And if she doesn't, it means she built her own life. Either way, she wins." I pressed my hand against my mouth, tears blurring my vision. "What about the gift card?" Mr. Whitmore's expression darkened. "That was not your grandmother's doing. She never intended for you to receive anything through your stepmother. The gift card was a fabrication, likely to make you believe you'd already received your inheritance." I felt sick. So she stole from me. Not technically. The trust was separate, protected, but she certainly deceived you about what your grandmother intended. I took a shaky breath. "How much is in the trust?" He turned his monitor toward me. I saw numbers that didn't make sense, figures that looked like a mistake. "This has to be wrong," I whispered. "It isn't," Mr. Whitmore said. "Your grandmother sold several properties over the years, including commercial real estate she'd inherited from her own parents. Combined with life insurance and investment growth over the past 7 years, the current balance is $3,247,000. The room tilted. I gripped the armrest of my chair to steady myself. "I worked double shifts," I said, my voice breaking. "I ate ramen for months. I skipped doctor's appointments because I couldn't afford the copays. And this was here the whole time?" Mr. Whitmore's eyes were soft with sympathy. "She believed in you, Miss Reyes. She wanted to know that whatever you became on your own terms." He reached into his briefcase and withdrew a sealed envelope. "She left this for you. I was instructed to give it to you only when you came looking." My name was written on the front in my grandmother's careful script, Anak. I broke the seal with trembling fingers. "My dearest Mia," it began. "If you're reading this, it means you survived. Not because I made things easy, but because you are stronger than the people who tried to diminish you. I know, Patricia. I know what she's capable of. I know your father has lost himself to her influence. And I knew that any gift I gave you openly, she would find a way to take or taint. So I hid this. For you. Not to rescue you from struggle, but to reward you for overcoming it. This money is not a gift. It's a recognition of who you've become. Use it wisely. Build something beautiful. And remember, family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when the world turns dark. You were always my granddaughter. You were always my Anak. All my love, forever, Nana. I couldn't see the page anymore through my tears. I set the letter down and covered my face with my hands, shoulders shaking with the weight of everything I'd carried for 7 years. Mr. Whitmore waited in respectful silence. When I finally composed myself, I looked up. "What about the house?" He raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "My stepmother said my father inherited it. She said it was settled." Mr. Whitmore pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. "Your grandmother's estate was more complex than your stepmother led you to believe." He explained that my grandmother had placed the Lake Oswego house into a living trust with specific conditions. My father was granted the right to live there, but ownership remained with the trust, controlled by a board of 3 trustees, including Mr. Whitmore himself. "Your stepmother has been attempting for years to gain full control," he said. "She's refinanced twice without proper authorization, taken out lines of credit against the property, and sold several items of significant value, including your grandmother's jewelry collection." My grandmother's jewelry. The jade bracelet she'd promised me when I turned 30. The pearl earrings she'd worn on her wedding day. She sold them? I'm afraid so. But, he paused, turning to another page, those actions constitute violations of the trust conditions. Combined with documentation of how you were treated, the trust has grounds to revoke residency rights. I stared at him. "You mean take the house back?" "I mean restore it to its intended purpose. Your grandmother wanted it to remain in the family, specifically for you, when you were ready." I thought about my stepmother, lounging in my grandmother's living room, redecorating away every trace of the woman who'd built that home. I thought about my father, silent and complicit, choosing his wife over his daughter without a word of protest. "What are my options?" I asked. Mr. Whitmore outlined 2 paths. I could let the trust proceed independently, allowing foreclosure on the unauthorized loans and eventual sale of the property. Or I could intervene directly, acquire the property through the trust, and decide its future myself. What did my grandmother want? He smiled faintly. "She wanted you to choose." I thought about the night I'd been thrown out, standing on the porch in the rain, reading that sunflower welcome mat that now felt like a cruel joke. I thought about the gift card, the dismissal, the years of silence. "Do it," I said. "I want the house." The process took 3 months. 3 months of legal filings, of documentation, of patient, methodical action. I didn't tell anyone except Destiny, who brought wine and Thai food to my apartment every time I received an update. "You're really doing this," she said one night, scrolling through the latest documents on my laptop. "I'm really doing this. How do you feel?" I considered the question. "Not angry," I said, surprising myself. I thought I'd feel angry, but mostly I just feel like I'm finishing something, closing a loop. The notice went out in January. A formal letter explaining that residency rights had been terminated due to trust violations. My father and stepmother had 30 days to vacate. I wasn't there when they received it. I didn't need to be. Mr. Whitmore kept me informed with brief, professional updates. "Your stepmother is contesting," he told me during one call. "She's claiming the trust documentation is fraudulent. Is she going to win?" "No," he said simply. "The paperwork is airtight. Your grandmother made sure of that." The 30 days passed. When they didn't leave voluntarily, the sheriff's office got involved. I received the notification on a Tuesday evening, right after finishing a shift at the hospital. "Eviction completed," the message read. "Property secured." I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage for a long time, staring at those words. 7 years. 7 years of silence, of struggle, of wondering if I'd made the right choice by cutting them off. And now, without a single direct confrontation, it was over. But it wasn't. Not quite. I drove to Lake Oswego the following Saturday. It was raining again, because Portland in February is always raining. The house looked different than I remembered. Smaller, somehow, and shabbier. The garden my grandmother had tended so carefully was overgrown. The paint was peeling. The windows looked cloudy and neglected. I parked on the street and sat there for a moment, gathering myself. A car pulled up behind me. I watched in the rearview mirror as my father stepped out, alone. He looked older, grayer, smaller. He walked toward my car slowly, hesitantly, like he wasn't sure of his welcome. I rolled down my window. "Mia?" he said. "Dad." We stared at each other. 7 years of silence stretched between us. "I didn't know," he said finally. "About the trust, about what your grandmother intended. Patricia handled everything. She told me. She told you what you wanted to hear," I finished, "and you let her." He flinched. I know I failed you. I waited. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he continued, his voice rough. "I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it. For not standing up for you. For letting her convince me that you weren't really family." His voice broke. "You were always my daughter, Mia. I was just too weak to act like it." I looked at him. This man who had chosen comfort over courage, silence over truth. I thought about all the years I'd spent wondering if he'd ever realize what he'd lost. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I said quietly. "I want you to know that. I'm not trying to hurt you." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "But I'm also not going to pretend it didn't happen. What she did to me, what you allowed, it changed my life. I had to build everything from nothing because you couldn't stand up for me. I know." I took a breath. "I'm turning the house into a foundation. Nana always talked about wanting to help young people aging out of foster care, kids who don't have family support. That's what this place will become, a resource center, something that actually helps people." My father was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, small and sad. "She would have loved that," he said. "I know." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A jade bracelet. "I got it back," he said. "Patricia sold it 2 years ago, but I tracked down the buyer. I've been holding on to it, hoping I'd get the chance to give it to you." I took the bracelet carefully. It was cool and smooth in my palm, exactly as I remembered it from childhood. "Thank you," I whispered. He nodded. "I should go. Patricia is waiting." He paused. "She doesn't know I came here." "Okay." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Mia, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. You became someone remarkable, in spite of everything." I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to give him that yet. He walked back to his car and drove away. I watched his taillights disappear into the rain. Then I got out of my car and walked up the path to the front door. Someone had already removed the old welcome mat. I made a mental note to buy a new one. Inside, the house was empty but not silent. It seemed to hum with memory, with possibility. I walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, remembering. In my grandmother's bedroom, I found the closet where she used to hide birthday presents, thinking I didn't know. In the kitchen, I stood at the counter where she'd taught me to cook, patient and laughing when I made mistakes. In the living room, I sat in the spot where she used to read to me, her voice soft and warm in the quiet evenings. "I did it, Nana," I said to the empty room. "I hope you're proud." The house didn't answer. But somehow, I felt her there anyway. I returned to work the following week. Nothing about my daily life changed on the surface. Still the same shifts, still the same patience, still the same small apartment with the river view if you leaned just right. But something inside me had settled. A piece of myself I hadn't realized was missing, clicking back into place. The foundation paperwork took months to finalize. I hired a nonprofit consultant, worked with Mr. Whitmore on the legal structure, and reached out to organizations that served foster youth. We named it the Elena Reyes Foundation, after my grandmother. The renovation of the house took another year. By the time we opened the doors, we had partnerships with 3 local colleges, a job training program, and emergency housing assistance for young adults aging out of the system. On opening day, I stood on the front porch, now freshly painted and flanked by new planters full of my grandmother's favorite flowers. The welcome mat read, "You belong here." A young woman, maybe 19, walked up the path tentatively. She had a backpack over one shoulder and a nervous look in her eyes that I recognized, the look of someone who'd learned not to expect too much. "Is this the place?" she asked. "For the housing program?" I smiled and held open the door. "This is the place. Come on in." She hesitated. "I don't really have anywhere else to go." "That's exactly why you're here." She stepped inside, and I watched her take in the warm lighting, the comfortable furniture, the wall of photos showing the young people we'd already helped. "It's nice," she said softly, surprised. "It's yours," I told her, "for as long as you need it." That night, after the reception ended and the last guests left, I sat alone in my grandmother's old chair by the window. The jade bracelet was on my wrist. Her letter was in my pocket, worn soft from rereading. I thought about the girl I'd been 7 years ago, standing in the rain with $200 and a broken heart. I wished I could tell her what was coming, that the struggle was worth it, that the people who tried to erase her would eventually fade into irrelevance, that she would build something beautiful from the wreckage they left behind. But maybe she didn't need to know. Maybe the not knowing was part of it. The faith required to keep moving when you couldn't see the path ahead. My phone buzzed. A text from Destiny. "Saw the news coverage. You did it. Proud of you." I smiled and typed back, "We did it. Couldn't have survived without you." Outside, the rain had stopped. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could see stars through the clouds. I closed my eyes and let the quiet settle over me. Family isn't who claims you when it's convenient. It's who shows up when the world goes dark. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it's who waits patiently on the other side of your hardest years, ready to welcome you home. Greed doesn't announce itself. It whispers, convinces, and consumes. But resilience is built in silence, in the small daily choices to keep your dignity intact when it would be easier to give up. I didn't take revenge. I took back my story. And somewhere, I know my grandmother is smiling. If this story stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Where are you watching from tonight? What part of this journey stayed with you? We share stories like this every day. Stories about truth, resilience, and finding your footing after betrayal. If you want to keep walking this road with us, hit subscribe and stay close. We're just getting started.